This is a research report from 2035, and Bitcoin is at $10,000. It peaked at 250. It's now $10,000, and all Bitcoin is financial blather and computers turned on 24/7. It has absolutely no value, but there's still cultish stalwarts that are in Bitcoin. Okay, so a guy like him, as smart as he is to say that, tells me three things. Number one, he hasn't studied Bitcoin. Number two, he has no real uh, understanding for that network. He has no real understanding for the advancement of that network. And then the last piece is that he missed it. Okay. And sometimes when people miss things, they dig in rather than flip over and say, hey, you know what? Bitcoin's really going from 100 to 200,000. I'm going to own some Bitcoin. You miss something, you get emotionally charged and you get defiant. You start pissing into the wind, if you will.
Anthony Scaramucci, former White House communications director and financier, recently sat down for an exclusive interview on the popular YouTube channel Altcoin Daily, offering his expert perspective on the current state of the cryptocurrency sector and its future prospects. Scaramucci, known for his unique combination of financial expertise and political insight, shared a comprehensive analysis of the factors shaping the future of Bitcoin and the broader crypto ecosystem. One topic that particularly caught his attention was a research paper by Cliff Asness, a prominent investor, which predicted a bleak future for Bitcoin. According to Asness' study, which examined Bitcoin from a futuristic standpoint, the cryptocurrency could peak at around $250,000 before crashing to $10,000 and eventually becoming worthless. Scaramucci responded with strong criticism of Asness' evaluation, offering valuable insights into the ongoing debate about Bitcoin's long-term value and its potential in the market. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.
I probably owed Donald Trump a Christmas gift. Like, him and I don't talk anymore, so I didn't give him one. But, he came in July. You were there. I was there. He gave a speech about crypto. He was a little funny and flippant at the end. I don't know if you remember the speech, but he said, go have fun with your Bitcoin or something like that. And he's not, in my mind, knowing the family for 3 decades, he's not the Bitcoiner in that family. And so the Bitcoiner in that family, the real disciple, the fully orange pilled person. Trump is painted orange, but Eric Trump is orange on the inside. Okay, he is a full on he's almost like a Bitcoin maximalist. You and I have other coins. That's why you're called altcoin. But he sees it. And I got the chance to see Eric's speech in Abu Dhabi at the Bitcoin conference in MENA. And, he sees the opportunity, the long-term opportunity. So I can't predict Bitcoin markets near term. I made a very silly mistake a few years ago, Austin, where I said, okay, if Bitcoin's 69,000 and the futures just got approved, it's November of 2021. Well, then, knowing what I know about administrative law, the cash or spot ETF for Bitcoin will be approved in February of 2022. And I got that wrong because of the arbitrary, capricious nature of Gary Gensler and the menacing nature of their anti-crypto stance for no reason. It cost them the House, it cost them the Senate, cost them the American presidency. The Democrats got destroyed, and even their own consultants and political analysts now say, what value was it to be so anti-crypto? What vote did we gain? What electoral vote did we gain? The answer is no votes. In fact, you knocked Sherrod Brown, who was a 3-term veteran, chair of the Senate Banking Committee. You knocked him back into Ohio with your silliness and your nonsense. So when I make predictions now, I'm always thinking about those rock slides that happened to me in 2021. But what I do like is what I know about Washington, and that is that people are policy. If you say to me, well, what is the policy of the Trump administration? Well, who are the people? And if we go down the list categorically, these are pro-Bitcoiners. Howard Lutnick at Commerce, Scott Bessent. Scott gave a beautiful interview before he was named or nominated to be the Secretary of the Treasury about Gensler. And he was very honest about it. He said, these guys were tight with Sam Bankman-Fried. They were tight with Sam Bankman-Fried's parents. Sam Bankman-Fried blew up. And in order to shield themselves from a potential attack due to their closeness, they went super hard indiscriminately at an industry for personal political reasons to eclipse the news stories around them being so close to the Bankman-Frieds. And I said, wow, Scott really gets it. I mean, he really understands where we are. So when you step back and you look at it and you look at Paul Atkins at SEC and Trump himself, I think there's going to be three or four big things that happen. And I think there'll be three or four pieces of legislation that happen. And I'm not going to say that Bitcoin's going to go straight up in 2025, but could Bitcoin have a $200,000 handle by the end of the year? Yes. Could we have a stop at 70 on the way there? Certainly, because it's just the way the nature of Bitcoin and the volatility of Bitcoin and still the lack of understanding. I have a buddy of mine, he's my age. His name is Cliff Asness. He just put out a research report. He's running billions of dollars. And he said, this is a research report from 2035. And Bitcoin is at $10,000. It peaked at 250. It's now $10,000. And all Bitcoin is financial blather and computers turned on 24/7. It has absolutely no value, but there's still cultish stalwarts that are in Bitcoin. Okay, so a guy like him, as smart as he is to say that, tells me three things. Number one, he hasn't studied Bitcoin. Number two, he has no real uh, understanding for that network. He has no real understanding for the advancement of that network. And then the last piece is that he missed it. Okay. And sometimes when people miss things, they dig in rather than flip over and say, hey, you know what? Bitcoin's really going from 100 to 200,000. I'm going to own some Bitcoin. You miss something, you get emotionally charged and you get defiant. You start pissing into the wind, if you will. And so what we sometimes do is we see something today, and I would make the argument that Bitcoin is in its immaturity. You say, well, how could it be in its immaturity? It went from a 0 cents or 0.1 cents to $90,000 or $100,000. How is it immature? It's immature because it's only saturated by about 5 or 6%. We're in the 90s. We're in the 1998, 1999 period of time in a comparison. And so what happens to these things is they get exponentially better as they get adapted. The speeds, the transferability, you've got something, you've got a piece of software and a network that's going to allow us to transfer value for goods and services in a permissionless way. And yet you've got people that are my age that are railing on it still, don't understand it because they haven't done the homework on it. So that's what's going to cause a lot more of this volatility as we ascend upward.
Anthony Scaramucci remarked on Donald Trump's stance on cryptocurrency, describing it as amusing, particularly referencing Trump's July speech in which he acknowledged Bitcoin. Scaramucci suggested that Eric Trump, not Donald, is the true Bitcoin enthusiast in the family, noting Eric's deep understanding of the technology, which he demonstrated at the Bitcoin conference in Abu Dhabi. Scaramucci admitted that predicting Bitcoin's market success is challenging, especially in light of the unpredictable regulatory environment. He reflected on his own experience, recalling his incorrect prediction that the approval of a Bitcoin Cash or Spot ETF would occur in February 2022, only for the SEC, led by Gary Gensler, to deny it. Scaramucci attributed the SEC's actions to arbitrary decision-making, driven by a desire to avoid criticism over their connections to Sam Bankman-Fried. He stressed the importance of understanding who holds power and how they shape policy, suggesting that the Trump administration's Bitcoin policy will likely be influenced by figures like Howard Lutnick and Scott Bent, both of whom have expressed concerns about Gensler's stance on cryptocurrency. Looking ahead, Scaramucci predicted that Bitcoin's price could reach $200,000 by the end of 2025, although he acknowledged that volatility will likely accompany the journey. He attributed the current volatility to a lack of understanding among some investors and emotional responses to market movement. Comparing the cryptocurrency industry to the internet in the 1990s, Scaramucci emphasized that there is still significant room for growth and development in the space.
I think it's the great wave of this cycle. So what I mean by that, if these bull runs are on 4-year cycles and then they have sort of a corrective year, if you will, before they start another bull run, it's a great wave of this cycle, but it's not the last wave. Because if you're 6-7% saturated, you could easily see lots of big waves. There's a reason that Bitcoin should get to $800,000 and $900,000 a coin, and the answer to that is gold. If you believe, which I believe, that Bitcoin is a form of digital gold. It is a form, a store of value like gold. It also could be through stacks and the Lightning Network, a transferable unit of value between all of us. There's no reason why it couldn't trade to the market capitalization of gold. And by the way, it's 0.1% of global assets today as a percentage of assets. So if it gets there, it's like 1.5% of assets. I mean, it's nondescript. Gold has an important function in our society, Austin, but it doesn't run the society. It doesn't move the markets. Okay. You're centered on Bitcoin. I'm centered on Bitcoin because we're in the industry, but it's nascent and it's very small relative to the overall market capitalization of the world. So to me, yes, I think this could be a very big bullish year. I think you probably could get a correction as you go into another halving cycle, but I think there's a big run up. I think the run up starts again, maybe we go to 250, maybe we correct back to 150, and then we're on our way to 500 or 800,000. You tell me though, because the government is a big beast. The government controls a lot of capital and can incentivize capital. If you say to me, hey, it's January 20th, and Donald Trump has signed an executive order through the Dollar Stabilization Act to mandate that the 200,000 tokens, 200,000 coins that are on the balance sheet of the U.S. stays on the balance sheet, and there's a mandate for the Treasury to buy another 300,000 tokens over the next 3 years. You're going to push the price up of Bitcoin, and you're going to cause a daisy chain reaction. That'll cause our economic competitors around the world, our economic allies around the world to start buying Bitcoin as well. So I'm assuming that doesn't happen. Could happen, but if it doesn't happen, I think you get naturally to a 250-ish thousand dollar rise from here over the next 12 to 24 months. I'm talking about if you're in your 40s and your 50s or younger, you're a Bitcoiner or you're a digital asset person. I do find, particularly for Democrats, if you're 70 or above, Elizabeth Warren, i.e., you're anti-crypto for whatever reason. You're just too old to really understand it, or you're not willing to teach yourself new tricks. So I believe that there is a big enough group of people, and I believe a combination of legislation and executive action gets you some Bitcoin exposure on the balance sheet of the U.S. government beyond what we already have. And so is it what Loomis wants? 1 million coins bought over 3 to 5 years? I don't know. I mean, 200,000 coins a year sounds like a lot. I don't know. At the time that she made that proposal, Bitcoin was at 75,000. You were like, okay, for 75, 80 billion dollars, you can buy 1 million coins. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. If they make an announcement and they legislate that coin's going to pop, and they may or may not get there, and there may be a regime change from for Republicans to the Democrats that could slow it down. I don't know. But I do think it's going to happen. And I do think it's going to happen not to the scale that Loomis is saying, but I do think it could happen to we're at 200 and we could get ourselves to 500.
Do you think that happens in the first month, or that's the first 2-year thing, or what?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's inside of the congressional term of 2 years. I think in the first month, you get some executive action from Trump. And I think in the first month, you get some SEC clarity. Okay. I think in the first 100 days, Trump is going to want to tell people, you're okay with your Bitcoin. I'm protecting your Bitcoin. And I'm also not going to impose a digital dollar on my watch. I'll do everything I can to stop that so that this libertarian idea that's represented by these assets stays in place.
What if you're wrong? What could cause Bitcoin to dip below 70 and you say you were wrong in the short term?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of things. Trump he's a capricious guy. He could reverse course for some reason, or be motivated or incentivized for some reason to reverse course. That would hurt Bitcoin. If you told me that there was something 15 years that hasn't been hacked, I'm not worried about the quantum computing stuff. I mean, Saylor's smarter than I on that issue, but I think and even, Jensen from NVIDIA came out and said, if you're worried about quantum computing, it's 15 to 30 years away. There'll be lots of defenses that will be built up prior to that. But, there could be something that I'm missing. What I hate about markets and I hate about life, it's not the things you worry about, Austin. Okay, it's the things that you don't worry about. Okay. It's the things that you think with absolute certainty. Somebody said to me, "What are you worried about, Anthony?" I said, "You know what I'm worried about? I can't find anything to worry about. So I'm worried. I'm worried that I'm missing something in the equation. But there are things that could happen. But I don't think it derails it. And I don't think, listen, I mean, Bitcoin went to 50, and there was a flash at 12,000 during the FTX crisis. I don't know if you remember that. It was in Asia overnight. So it flashed down to 12,000. It popped back up to 17. I think the bankruptcy priced those coins at 16 or 17,000. We're now in the 90s, but I don't think we're even anywhere close to fair value.
Anthony Scaramucci believes that the current bull run in the cryptocurrency market could be a significant wave in this cycle, but not the final one. He sees Bitcoin's potential as vast, especially with its current low market penetration of around 6%. Scaramucci compares Bitcoin to gold, suggesting that if it were to reach gold's market capitalization, its price could soar to $900,000 per coin. He predicts a major bull run in the coming year, with Bitcoin potentially peaking at $250,000 before experiencing a pullback and another upward cycle. Scaramucci also highlights the potential impact of government actions, such as executive orders or legislation, on the cryptocurrency market. He suggests that if the U.S. government mandated the purchase of Bitcoin, it could set off a chain reaction, with other countries following suit. Additionally, he believes that demographic factors are shaping the acceptance of crypto, with younger generations being more open to digital asset. He also points out that some older politicians may be resistant to crypto due to a lack of understanding of emerging technologies. Despite acknowledging potential volatility, including a possible drop in Bitcoin's price below $70,000 due to unexpected actions by Trump or other governments, Scaramucci remains bullish on Bitcoin's long-term prospects. He believes that its decentralized nature makes it less susceptible to government manipulation. Scaramucci envisions a Trump administration taking a more crypto-friendly approach, offering reassurance to Bitcoin investors and avoiding the introduction of a digital dollar, potentially within the first 100 days of his presidency. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.